A 10-year-old boy was eating lunch at a diner when he saw something terrible happening in the parking lot. A man was cutting the brakes on motorcycles. The boy ran outside and screamed a warning to the riders. "Wait! Don't start your bikes." The motorcycle club members found something shocking: 3 brake lines were completely cut. If they had started those bikes, they would have crashed and died. One small boy saved multiple lives that day. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The morning sun was bright and warm on the face of 10-year-old Tommy Chen. He sat in the back seat of his grandfather's old blue Ford, watching the world go by through the window. They were driving through the quiet streets of a small town in Nevada called Thunder Valley. Thunder Valley was a peaceful place where everyone knew everyone else. It was the kind of town where nothing bad ever happened. Or at least, that is what people thought. Tommy's grandfather, James Chen, was a retired mechanic who had worked on cars and motorcycles for 40 years. James had opened his own repair shop when he was young, and he had built a reputation as the best mechanic in town. Everyone trusted James. Everyone came to him when their cars and motorcycles needed help. James loved his work. He loved understanding how machines worked. He loved teaching Tommy about engines and transmissions and brake systems. Tommy was a curious and observant boy. He noticed everything around him. He noticed when something was different. He noticed when something was wrong. His teachers at school always said that Tommy was the kind of student who paid attention. Tommy asked good questions. Tommy thought deeply about things. "Grandpa, why are those men wearing the same jackets?" Tommy asked, pointing through the window at a group of motorcycle riders ahead of them on the road. The riders were wearing matching leather jackets with patches on the back. "Those are members of a motorcycle club," James explained patiently. He had explained many things to Tommy over the years. "They wear those jackets to show they belong to a club. Those jackets are called cuts. They are decorated with patches that show club membership, location, and achievements. It is like a uniform. It is like a badge of honor for them. The patches on the back tell a story about who they are and what they believe in." "Are they bad men?" Tommy asked with some concern in his young voice. "Not all of them," James said wisely. "Some motorcycle clubs are involved in criminal activities. Some motorcycle clubs help people in their communities. Some motorcycle clubs are just groups of men who love motorcycles and want to ride together and be brothers. You cannot judge a person by what they wear or what club they belong to. You cannot judge a person by how they look. You have to look at what they do. You have to look at their actions. You have to look at their character." Tommy remembered this lesson. He would need to remember it very soon. They pulled into the parking lot of Murphy's Diner, a popular place in Thunder Valley that had been serving the community for 30 years. The diner was a local institution. Everyone in town knew about Murphy's Diner. The diner had red vinyl booths, a long counter with red stools, and a warm, friendly atmosphere. Photographs of local people and events covered the walls. "Come on, Tommy," James said warmly. "Let me buy you some lunch. Your grandmother is working late today at the hospital, so we have time to eat together." Inside the diner, it was warm and welcoming. The smell of hamburgers and hot coffee filled the air. There were several customers eating at different tables. An older waitress named Rose, who had worked at Murphy's for 20 years, came over with a big smile on her face. "James. Good to see you," Rose said with genuine warmth. "And you brought Tommy. Look how much you have grown, young man. Last time I saw you, you were only this tall," she said, holding her hand at a lower level. "Rose, 2 hamburgers and 2 sodas, please," James said. "Tommy, what do you want on your hamburger?" "Tell Rose exactly what you want." "Just ketchup and mustard, please, and no onions," Tommy said politely. "Coming right up," Rose said, writing the order on her notepad. They sat in a booth by the window. Tommy could see the parking lot outside clearly. There were several motorcycles parked out there. Big, beautiful motorcycles with shiny chrome that gleamed in the sunlight. The bikes looked powerful and impressive. They looked expensive. They looked like they belonged to men who cared about them. "Those are nice bikes, Grandpa," Tommy said to his grandfather. "Yes, they are," James agreed, looking out the window. "Those look like Harley-Davidsons. Very good quality machines. Very expensive. Someone takes very good care of those bikes. You can tell by the way they shine." As they ate their hamburgers and talked about Tommy's school and his friends, Tommy noticed something strange in the parking lot. A man came walking through the parking lot slowly and carefully. The man was wearing dark clothes, a dark shirt and dark pants. The man was wearing a dark hoodie pulled over his head, which was unusual because it was a warm day. The man's face was hidden in shadow. Tommy's eyes followed the man carefully. The man was looking around nervously, constantly checking to make sure no one was watching him. The man's movements were quick and jerky, like he was trying to hide something. Like he knew he was doing something wrong. Tommy watched as the man walked between the motorcycles, moving toward the first one. The man looked around quickly one more time to make sure no one was watching him. Then the man bent down near the first motorcycle, getting close to the front wheel. Tommy's eyes got bigger. His heart started to beat faster. He saw the man pull something out of his jacket pocket. It looked like a tool, maybe a wrench or a cutting tool. The tool was shiny metal. The man was doing something underneath the motorcycle, near the brake area. Tommy could see the man working carefully, but quickly, like he was in a hurry. "Grandpa," Tommy said quietly, his voice a little shaky. "Something looks wrong over there. That man is doing something to those motorcycles." James looked up from his hamburger. He put down his fork carefully. "What do you mean?" "Show me," James said. "That man over there," Tommy pointed carefully toward the parking lot. "He is doing something underneath those motorcycles. He is doing something near the wheels. Something does not feel right about it." James looked out the window carefully. His face changed immediately. James's expression became serious and concerned. James could see exactly what Tommy was seeing. James, with his 40 years of experience as a mechanic, understood exactly what was happening. "Come with me," James said urgently. "We need to find the manager. We need to call the police right now." James stood up quickly and took Tommy's hand. They walked to the counter where Rose was working. "Rose, where is Bob? I need to speak to Bob immediately." "It is an emergency," James said. "Bob is in the office in the back," Rose said, looking concerned. "Is something wrong?" James found the diner manager, a man named Bob Murphy who had owned the diner for 20 years. James explained quickly what he and Tommy had seen. Bob's face went pale. Bob immediately called the police department and reported the incident. "Yes, police. I am calling from Murphy's Diner. We have someone vandalizing motorcycles in our parking lot." "Yes, right now. I do not know what he is doing exactly, but someone is definitely tampering with those bikes," Bob said to the dispatcher. But Tommy was still watching the man through the window. The man had finished with the first motorcycle and moved to the second one. He was doing exactly the same thing again, bending down, using the tool, working near the wheels. The man's movements were practiced, like he had done this before. Tommy's mind was working quickly. He was thinking about everything his grandfather had taught him about motorcycles and how they work. Then Tommy remembered something important. His grandfather had been teaching Tommy about motorcycle maintenance just 1 week ago. James had explained to Tommy about all the important systems in a motorcycle. "The brake system is the most important part of a motorcycle," James had said. "The brakes are what stop the motorcycle. When the rider wants to stop, the rider pulls the brake lever. This causes the brake pads to squeeze against the brake discs. This friction causes the motorcycle to slow down and stop. But if the brakes do not work, the rider cannot stop. The rider will go faster and faster. The rider will lose control. The rider will crash. The rider could be seriously hurt. The rider could die. James had also said, the brake lines are tubes that carry brake fluid from the brake lever to the brake pads. If a brake line is cut, the brake fluid leaks out, and the brakes stop working. That is why brake lines are so important. Tommy's heart started beating very fast now. His hands began to shake. His mouth felt dry. The man was cutting brake lines. The man was sabotaging the motorcycles. The man was trying to hurt people. The man was trying to cause crashes. Tommy felt scared. His whole body was shaking with fear. But Tommy also felt something else deep inside. He felt a strong sense that he needed to do something. He felt that he needed to warn people. He felt that if he did not say something, people would be hurt or killed. Police sirens were heard in the distance, getting closer and closer. Bob had called the police. The police were coming. But Tommy was not sure if they would arrive in time. Would the man finish cutting all the brake lines before the police got there? Would the motorcycle riders start their bikes and go for a ride? Would they crash on the road because their brakes did not work? Tommy felt the weight of this decision on his young shoulders. Should he stay safe inside the diner? Should he let adults handle this? Or should he run outside and warn the motorcycle riders? Tommy looked at his grandfather. James could see the struggle on Tommy's face. James could see that Tommy was scared but also determined to do what was right. Tommy, James said, you know what you need to do. Tommy made a decision. He was scared. His hands were shaking. His heart was beating so fast he thought it might jump out of his chest. But he knew he had to act. He knew that doing what was right was more important than being comfortable or safe. Tommy stood up. Tommy told his grandfather, I am going to warn them. Be careful, James said. Run straight there and tell them what you saw. Tommy ran out of the diner. He ran as fast as his 10-year-old legs could carry him. His legs pumped up and down. His breath came in short, fast gasps. His backpack bounced on his shoulders. His shoes pounded on the pavement. His grandfather shouted after him, but Tommy did not stop. 3 men were standing near the motorcycles, talking and laughing. They were wearing the matching leather jackets with patches. They looked tough and strong. They had tattoos on their arms. They looked like the kind of men that most people would be scared of. But Tommy knew he had to warn them anyway. Stop! Tommy screamed with all the strength in his young voice. Please stop. Do not start your motorcycles. Please do not start your motorcycles. Stop. The 3 men turned and looked at Tommy with surprise. They saw a young boy running toward them across the parking lot, screaming a warning. The men did not understand what was happening. Kid, what is wrong? What are you yelling about? One of the men asked. He was a big man with a thick beard and arms covered with tattoos. His name was Roy, and he was the president of the Thunder Valley Riders Motorcycle Club. That man. Tommy pointed urgently at the hooded figure who was now backing away quickly from the motorcycles. The man in the hoodie had heard Tommy's screaming and understood that his plan had been discovered. He is cutting your motorcycles. He is cutting something important underneath. My grandpa is a mechanic. I know about motorcycles. He is cutting your brake lines. If you start your bikes, you will crash. Your brakes will not work. You will get hurt. The 3 men's faces changed instantly. They understood immediately. They understood what this meant. They understood that this young boy had just saved their lives. Get him. Stop that man, one of the men shouted, pointing at the hooded figure who was now running as fast as he could. The hooded man started running across the parking lot toward the far end where a car was idling with the engine running. Someone else was waiting there with a getaway car. Someone else was part of this plan to sabotage the motorcycles. But one of the motorcycle club members was faster and more athletic than the others. His name was Big Mike. Big Mike was a former boxer who had fought professionally for many years. Big Mike had fast reflexes and powerful muscles. Big Mike was very fast for a big man. Big Mike ran after the hooded man and caught him just as he reached the getaway car. The hooded man struggled and tried to fight, but Big Mike was too strong. Big Mike held the man firmly on the ground. The driver of the car saw that something had gone very wrong with their plan. The driver could see that the hooded man had been caught. The driver understood that the police would be arriving soon. The driver panicked and drove away very fast, leaving the hooded man behind to face the consequences alone. The police arrived within 2 minutes with their lights flashing and sirens wailing. They arrested the hooded man immediately and put him in handcuffs. Police officers examined the motorcycles with flashlights. James came running out of the diner as fast as he could. He grabbed Tommy and hugged him tightly against his body. "That was very brave," James said, his voice shaking with emotion. "That was also very dangerous. You could have been hurt." "I had to warn them," Tommy said. His voice was still shaking from the fear and adrenaline. "You taught me that brake lines are important. You taught me that if someone cuts brake lines, people can die. I had to warn them, Grandpa. I had to do something." The police took statements from everyone: James, Tommy, Roy, Big Mike, and the third motorcycle club member named Tony. The hooded man was arrested and taken to the police station. The police examined the motorcycles carefully. They found that 3 of the 4 brake lines had been cut clean through with a sharp tool. The cuts were professional and deliberate. This was clearly sabotage. This was clearly an attempted attack. The police officer in charge, Officer Martinez, looked at Tommy with respect and genuine gratitude. "Son, you did a very good thing today," Officer Martinez said. "You are very observant. You are very brave. You saved these men's lives. If you had not warned them, they would have started these bikes and gone for a ride. They would have been on the highway. When they tried to brake, nothing would have happened. They would have crashed. They could have been seriously hurt. They could have died. But because of you, that did not happen." Roy, the big man with the beard who was the president of the Thunder Valley Riders MC, came over to Tommy after the police had finished taking statements. Roy extended his large hand to Tommy. "What is your name, son?" Roy asked. "Tommy," the boy said, shaking Roy's hand. "Tommy Chen." "Tommy Chen, I am Roy. I am president of the Thunder Valley Riders Motorcycle Club," Roy said. His voice was deep and serious, but also warm and kind. "You just saved my life and the lives of my friends. I will never forget this. My club will never forget this. You showed more courage than most men show in their entire lives." Roy's 2 friends came over. Their names were Big Mike and Tony. They both thanked Tommy personally. They both told him he was incredibly brave. They both shook his hand and looked him in the eye to show respect. "Your grandfather taught you well," Big Mike said. "He taught you to notice things. He taught you to care about people you do not even know. That is character. That is what makes a hero. You are a hero, Tommy." James was standing behind Tommy, his hand on Tommy's shoulder. He was proud of his grandson. He was also grateful that Tommy had not been hurt. He was also relieved that people's lives had been saved. Over the next few days, the police investigated the incident thoroughly. They interviewed witnesses. They examined evidence. They discovered important information about who was behind the sabotage. The police discovered that a man named Carlos had been hired to cut the brake lines on the motorcycles. Carlos was a mechanic who had fallen on hard times and needed money. Carlos had agreed to sabotage the bikes for payment. But Carlos had not come up with this plan himself. Carlos had been hired by someone else. The police discovered that a man named Victor had hired Carlos to do this job. Victor was a member of a rival motorcycle club called the Desert Kings MC. The Desert Kings MC and the Thunder Valley Riders MC had been having serious problems for several months. There had been arguments about territory. There had been disagreements about business dealings. There had been tension between the two clubs. But nothing violent had happened, until now. Victor wanted to start a war between the two clubs. Victor wanted to hurt Roy and his friends badly. Victor wanted to create a conflict that would escalate into violence. Victor had hired Carlos to cut the brake lines as a way to cause a serious accident that would hurt or kill members of the Thunder Valley Riders MC. Victor wanted to use this accident as an excuse to start a war with the rival club. But Tommy's warning had stopped all of that. Tommy had prevented a tragedy. Tommy had prevented a serious accident. Tommy had prevented a war between two motorcycle clubs that could have involved many people and caused a lot of damage. 3 days after the incident, a reporter came to interview Tommy. The reporter worked for the local news station called Channel 7 News. The reporter wanted to tell the story of a brave boy who had saved lives. The reporter wanted to show people that heroes are not just adults, but sometimes children can be heroes too. The reporter's name was Susan Martinez. She was a professional journalist with 15 years of experience. She sat down with Tommy and his grandfather in their home. "Tommy, I want to ask you some questions about what happened," Susan said gently. "I want to tell your story to everyone in our community." "Were you scared?" Susan asked Tommy. "Yes," Tommy said honestly, speaking in a clear voice. "I was very scared. I was scared of the men on the motorcycles because they looked tough and dangerous. I was scared of the hooded man because I thought he might hurt me. I was scared of what might happen. I was scared of running outside and not knowing what would occur. But I was more scared of what would happen if I did not speak up. I was more scared of knowing that people would get hurt and possibly die and I had said nothing about it." "What would you tell other children who see something wrong?" Susan asked. "I would tell them to speak up," Tommy said. "I would tell them that it is okay to be scared. I would tell them that being brave does not mean you are not scared. Being brave means you do the right thing even though you are scared. Being brave means you speak up even when your voice is shaking. I would tell them that their voice matters, no matter how young they are. I would tell them that they can make a difference. I would tell them to talk to an adult they trust about what they saw." "What did your grandfather teach you?" Susan asked. "My grandfather taught me to notice things," Tommy said. "He taught me to pay attention to the world around me. He taught me that small details matter. He taught me that knowing how things work is important. He taught me that if you see someone doing something wrong, you should speak up. He taught me that one person can make a difference." The story aired on the local news that evening at 6 o'clock. By the next morning, it was on social media websites. People were sharing the story on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. People were calling Tommy a hero. People were writing comments saying how brave Tommy was. People were discussing the story with their families and friends. News outlets from other cities picked up the story. The story was featured on regional news programs. The story was even picked up by some national news outlets. Tommy Chen, the 10-year-old boy who had warned motorcycle riders about sabotaged brakes, was becoming famous. But Tommy did not feel like a hero. He felt like he had just done what was right. He felt like anyone would have done the same thing. He felt uncomfortable with all the attention. 1 week after the incident, Roy and his friends Mike and Tony came to Tommy's house. They brought their motorcycles and parked them in front of the house. When Tommy's neighbors saw the motorcycles, they came out to watch. The motorcycle club members got off their bikes and walked up to the door. Roy knocked on the door. Tommy's mother answered. Tommy came to the door behind his mother. "Hello, Tommy," Roy said with a warm smile. "We want to give you something." Roy held out a small leather jacket. The jacket was made of real leather. The jacket had the Thunder Valley Riders logo embroidered on the back. The logo showed a Thunderbird symbol and the words, "Thunder Valley Riders MC," in bold letters. "This jacket means you are part of our club family," Roy explained. "You are not a full member yet, you are too young for that. But you are an honorary member. You are part of our family. You are our brother." Tommy put on the jacket carefully. It was too big for him now, but he would grow into it. He felt proud wearing it. He felt like he belonged to something special. "Thank you," Tommy said. "Thank you for everything." "No, thank you," Roy said. "You saved our lives. You showed us that courage is not about how big you are or how tough you are. Courage is about doing what is right. You are the bravest person I know. You are 9 times braver than any of us." Over the following months, Tommy spent more time with the Thunder Valley Riders MC. Roy taught him about motorcycles and how they work. Mike taught him how to be strong and confident and stand up for what he believes in. Tony taught him about loyalty and family and the importance of taking care of people you care about. James was happy to see Tommy spending time with these men. James could see that they were good men. James could see that they cared about Tommy. James could see that they were teaching Tommy important lessons about life and character. "These men are not what most people think motorcycle club members are," James told his wife, Carmen. "These men are honorable. These men believe in doing what is right. They believe in helping people. They believe in family. They believe in loyalty. They are good men." Victor, the man who had hired someone to cut the brake lines, was arrested by the police. Victor was charged with attempted murder. The charge of attempted murder meant that he had tried to kill people. This was a very serious charge that could result in a long prison sentence. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The courthouse was crowded with people who wanted to watch the trial. Roy and his friends from the motorcycle club attended every day of the trial. Tommy had to testify in court. Tommy had to tell the judge and jury exactly what he had seen that day. Tommy had to stand in front of the judge and jury and tell the truth about his experience. Tommy was nervous about testifying. He had never done this before. The prosecutor, whose job was to prove that Victor was guilty, asked Tommy questions. "I saw him doing something to the motorcycles," Tommy said in his calm, honest voice. "I recognized what he was doing because my grandfather had shown me a brake line cutter. I knew that if the brake lines were cut, the motorcycles would not be able to stop. I knew that people would crash. I knew that people could get hurt or die." The judge looked at Tommy with great respect. "Young man, you have shown more courage and good sense than many adults show in their entire lives," the judge said. "Your warning prevented a tragedy. Your warning prevented what could have been a war between 2 motorcycle clubs. You have done a great service to this community. You have done a great service to these men. You have done a great service to justice." Victor was found guilty by the jury. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison. He would spend the next 15 years of his life in prison for attempting to murder Roy and his friends. Carlos, the man who had actually cut the brake lines, was also found guilty. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison because he had followed someone else's instructions, even though that was no excuse. Justice had been served. But more importantly, lives had been saved. Tragedy had been prevented. A potential war between 2 motorcycle clubs had been prevented. A year after the incident, the town of Thunder Valley held a special ceremony to honor Tommy's bravery. The ceremony was held at the town square. The mayor of Thunder Valley attended. Local news reporters came to cover the event. Tommy's entire school attended. Teachers and students came to see Tommy receive his award. His family was there, his grandfather James, his grandmother Carmen, his mother, his father, and his younger sister. The Thunder Valley Riders MC came on their motorcycles. They rode through the town square slowly and parked their bikes in a line. All the members wore their leather jackets with pride. The mayor gave Tommy a medal for bravery. The medal was made of bronze and hung from a red ribbon. The medal had Tommy's name engraved on it and the date of his brave actions. Roy gave a speech to the crowd. 1 year ago, a 10-year-old boy showed more courage than many grown men ever show in their entire lives, Roy said. Tommy Chin saw something wrong. Tommy Chin could have walked away. Tommy Chin could have pretended he did not see anything. But Tommy Chin did not do that. Tommy Chin spoke up. Tommy Chin warned us. Tommy Chin saved our lives. Roy looked directly at Tommy. Tommy, you are an example to all of us, Roy continued. You have shown that one person can make a difference. You have shown that speaking up is important, no matter how young you are. You have shown that doing what is right is more important than being comfortable. You have shown that heroes are not just people in movies and comic books. Heroes are people like you. Heroes are ordinary people who do extraordinary things. The crowd stood up and applauded. Tommy felt his face get red with embarrassment. He was shy about all the attention. But he was also proud of himself. He was proud that he had done the right thing. After the ceremony, Tommy's mother came to him and hugged him tightly. I am so proud of you, she said, her eyes filled with tears. I am proud that you are brave. I am proud that you care about people. I am proud that you did the right thing even though you were scared. I am proud that you are my son. Tommy hugged his mother back. That evening, Tommy rode on the back of Roy's motorcycle for the first time. Roy drove carefully and safely through the streets of Thunder Valley. Tommy sat behind Roy on the bike and felt the wind in his hair. He felt the rumble of the engine beneath him. He felt free and happy and proud. Roy had told Tommy something important that Tommy would never forget: a hero is not someone who is never scared. A hero is someone who feels scared and does the right thing anyway. You are a hero, Tommy, because you were scared and you spoke up anyway. You are a hero because you cared about people you did not even know. You are a hero because you were brave. 3 years later, Tommy was 13 years old. He was growing taller and stronger every year. He was still close friends with Roy and Mike and Tony from the motorcycle club. The men still treated him like a younger brother. Tommy had started a club at his school called the Speak Up Club. The club was dedicated to teaching other students the importance of speaking up when they see something wrong. The club taught students to notice when something is wrong. The club taught students to report suspicious activity to trusted adults. The club taught students that their voice matters. The club taught students that they can make a difference in their community. 50 students joined Tommy's club in the first year. 60 more students joined in the second year. Now, in the third year, over 150 students were members of the Speak Up Club. The club met every week. The club discussed real situations. The club taught students how to handle different scenarios. Tommy had changed his school. Tommy had created a culture where students felt empowered to speak up about problems. Tommy had changed his community. All of this had happened because Tommy had noticed something wrong and had the courage to speak up. Roy, Mike, and Tony were no longer just motorcycle club members to Tommy. They were like uncles to him. They came to Tommy's birthday parties every year. They helped Tommy with his homework. They taught Tommy about motorcycles and mechanics. They taught Tommy about life and character and what it means to be a good man. They treated him like he was part of their family. Your grandfather taught you well, Roy told Tommy one day. He taught you to notice things. He taught you to care about people. He taught you to be brave. Now you are teaching other children the same lessons. That is how good values spread through a community. One person teaches another person. Then that person teaches another person. Then that person teaches yet another person. Soon, the whole community is better. You are making Thunder Valley a better place, Tommy. Tommy understood this truth. Tommy saw how his one act of courage had created a ripple effect that was spreading through his community. Tommy saw that one person being brave made other people want to be brave too. Tommy saw that one good action could inspire many other good actions. If this story has touched your heart, if this story has inspired you to be brave, please share it with someone you love. Please share it with your family and your friends. Please tell someone that they are brave. Please tell someone that they matter. Please tell someone that they can make a difference in their community. Because we are all capable of being heroes. We are all capable of speaking up when we see something wrong. We are all capable of changing our communities one brave act at a time. We are all capable of being like Tommy Chen. Thank you for listening to the story of Tommy Chen, the boy who said, "Wait, don't start your bikes," and changed his entire community forever. Thank you for believing in the power of courage and kindness and honesty.